Greetings, dudes. It's DM Ted here, coming at you with a brief video explaining a new series we're working on here at Dude, Where's My D20? It is a world building series, that is to say, a series about creating a new world or a new setting. I'm going to be creating one for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition based on a shower thought I had recently. But I hope that I can provide for you some insights that you can use in world building for any kind of RPG, whatever you happen to be running. The first installment of these videos is going to be about the high concept, which is to say, what is the core, the seed of this setting? What makes it different from, say, Forgotten Realms or Dragonlance? And we will proceed from there in a probably meandering way as I create different elements and talk through my process of what those elements are and why I'm doing them. In any case, I hope these are useful to you, or at least fun for you. Feel free to share your thoughts and ideas. Like, comment, and subscribe, please. And we thank you for listening here at Dude, Where's My D20? This one is a little bit of a personal project for me. I am working on creating a new Dungeons & Dragons setting, something I like to do often. I have 4 or 5 fairly fleshed out personal settings. Plus, at some point, I'd like to flesh out a little bit better on paper the one from the first campaign that I ran for the dudes. But this isn't that. This is something wholly new. It is an idea that came to me. I'm currently calling it Unnamed Worldbuilding Project because I don't have a name for this setting yet. I'm a big fan of what you call the high concept fantasy world, a world that starts with an idea. And what the idea that I'm starting with here is that every nation in this new setting is tied to one of the outer planes. Literally, they are coterminous with one of the other planes. The example that I've got so far, and yes, this is the only one I've worked out so far, is the realm that the elves and goblinoids and fairies come from is coterminous permanently with the fairy realm, and the energies of the fairy realm have shaped the people that have been born into that territory, which is why elves, goblinoids, and fairies all share a common basic appearance with the lean limbs and the pointed ears and so on. I'm going to be putting a lot of work in future weeks into going through all of the races, deciding what realms they could be tied to. It's going to be a lot of work, and I hope to be bringing you videos as I go through this creative process. And I hope you're interested. So to expand on the core premise here of these different realms that are all tied to different energies from other planes, I asked myself, what's the complication in this world? Obviously, we have nations that are centuries and millennia old, and there's old resentments and all of that kind of thing. But what's going to be different here? And what I've come up with is dragons are not this ancient thing of lore. Dragons are actually entirely new to this world. So what I've got currently as an idea is that about 40 years ago, a rift opened up on the continent to another material plane. And out of that plane issued forth the chromatic dragonborn. And dragonborn are also a race that was never seen in this world before. And as the chromatic dragonborn poured out through this rift, which is called the cleft, they brought with them the first chromatic dragons. That's red, black, blue, green, and white. They brought with them the first chromatic dragons. Prior to 40 years ago, no one in this world had seen dragons or heard of them. And the chromatic dragonborn just cut a swath through the continent, as if they were just conquering from where they were spreading out. They're organized, they're disciplined, and they have military might and tactics that this world hasn't previously seen. And of course, their fearsome allies, the dragons. They're also battle hardened. These are armies that have been at war for ages. And they swept through pretty much unimpeded, wiping out chunks of ancient nations and taking them within their new borders, because they could resupply constantly. They had seemingly unlimited resources that they could bring through the cleft: more men, more dragons, more war materials. But then, just about a year ago, a new group came through the cleft, and these were the metallic dragonborn with them, and they brought with them their metallic dragons. So gold, silver, bronze, brass, and copper. And they poured through, but then behind them, they slammed the cleft shut somehow, magically. And with the cleft shut, the army of chromatic dragonborn has lost its resupply train, and it can no longer infinitely resupply itself. And so they have stopped their advancement. They are gathering their might together, solidifying the borders of the territory they've already taken, and the world gets a moment to breathe. And that's where we are at what will be the start of the first campaign, should I in fact ever run this. So in future installments, I'm going to be talking a little bit about things like, I'm going to be going through all of the different races that I want to include in this setting. We'll talk about classes and subclasses and where they fit in this setting, how they're used, which ones will and won't be utilized, all of that kind of thing. So it should be fun. It should be interesting. We need to look at all of the existing. We have such a plethora of races for 5e now. So I'm going to go through Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse. I probably won't include everything. I'm generally very reticent to include setting-specific races in my new settings. For instance, I love the D&D setting Eberron, and I really like the concepts of the Warforged and the Kalishtar. I think those are great concepts, but I generally won't boost those for my own settings. I leave them alone and don't include them because I respect the work that Baker did, and to me, those things are quintessentially Eberron, and you can't just port them into another setting without damaging the fabric of what they are. So I probably won't include things like that, but Monsters of the Multiverse has so many options. So I plan to include some things from Beyond the Player's Handbook. We'll look at that as we go through. And the same with subclasses. I'll probably include every subclass on some level, or most of the subclasses on some level. However, I may tie certain subclasses to certain races, the way Advanced Dungeons & Dragons worked, where there were limitations on class and race combinations. And that's not just to create a limitation for the sake of a limitation. The idea behind that is to create flavor for things. I'm a big fan of everything having a place, and that place informing the way a setting feels. And then the third thing on my current first considerations list is to flesh out what these outer realms are. I do not intend to just use the packed in D&D names for realms or even the descriptions. I don't want to use the Feywild. I don't want to use the Shadowfell. They're going to be similar realms, but I'm not going to use those in name or in presentation, hopefully. So that's another thing. So I'm going to have to find out how many of these realms I can create, what they are each going to do to the realms that they connect with, the physical realms in the material plane, and then what races fit within that new environment that they've created. For instance, I've been working on the elves were kind of an early thing. I'm basing them on Scottish fairy stories. So I'm using a lot of Scottish Gaelic for names currently. This is all subject to change. And by the way, I make no claims that I know how to pronounce anything in Scottish Gaelic. I'm just looking things up. I am not proficient in the language. But so far, I have the fairy realm called Tir Ale or Isle. I'm not sure how that would be pronounced, but that's the actual other dimension of the fairy. And then the Sylvan realm that the fairies rule and elves and goblinoids also inhabit is called Tulam Crua, and it is as I said, fairies rule there. The actual D&D race fairies. They have an immortal king and a queen. I'm thinking of using the names Oberon and Titania here, and this is just spitballing again. I'm thinking about using the names Oberon and Titania because I'm a big fan of Shakespeare. And they preside over a split court or two lesser courts known as the Seelie and Unseelie. If you know anything about fairy stuff, you're probably aware of that concept. It's not really important right now. These are just spitballing ideas. But that's probably where I'm going with that. So instead of a realm where the elves live in these high trees and all of this and are the highest haughty race in this world, the fairies would be the true rulers of the realm, and elves and goblinoids are more firmly tied to the material plane and therefore seen as lesser beings by the fairies proper. The one race idea that I have fully locked in because it's so important to the setting, as I talked about a little bit earlier, was the Dragonborn. The Dragonborn here are a completely quote-unquote alien race, as it were. They were never known prior to the cleft opening up. They're a new thing. I have to come up with a reason why are the chromatic Dragonborn this organized and experienced army, and why are they invading this new realm they found? I haven't put a lot of thought, much less actual effort into that yet, but I'm sure the reason why will become important at some point. And the newness of dragons also will be kind of a big thing for this setting. I think most settings treat dragons as either relatively common but very knowable, as in Forgotten Realms, or sometimes mysterious but always an ancient part of the world that people have known about and talked about, as we see in like Dragonlance, for instance. So this is something a little different. A world full of people that have never faced dragons and don't know what they are or what they're about. So that's going to inform the setting a little bit too. So that's it. Like I said, if you got ideas, comments, or you just want to tell me I'm stupid and this whole idea is stupid, drop it in the comments. Check out Dude, Where's My D20 as we play. We're currently playing through the Dragonlance campaign that Wizards of the Coast just put out. The guys are going to be looking to do some more computer gaming stuff. They're going to be playing Baldur's Gate fairly soon, I understand, and possibly the new Diablo when that comes out. But check us out on Twitch and here on YouTube. And thanks for listening. If you made it all the way through, we appreciate you. We love you. Like, share, and subscribe. I am contractually obligated to say that. I'm out.